Hi everyone, in today's video we are going to be talking about indie publishing. So we get loads of questions like things like, but don't you want to be taken seriously? Don't you want to be in bookshops? Don't you want to make loads of money? And I hear those questions, they are valid questions. Let's dive into money first, shall we? So money is a big thing, and in the traditional world you might get advances on books. Now I hear it's pretty rare to get quite decent advances to the point where it's not really enough to sustain you even on a very low wage. So you know, yes, if you hit it big time you could get big advances. If you've been with your publishing company for a while, you could get more of a larger advance. But for most authors, the advances that they may get are probably not enough to sustain them. Indie publishing, you are putting a lot of money up front first, but then when you get those royalties back in, they are then your royalties, so you're not getting an advance, it's just spread over time. So in terms of monetary success, you can be very successful in the indie world. Now one of the big downsides of traditional publishing, when you're talking about royalties and making money, is actually you don't get a lot of that royalty. It is split between so many different people who've had a hand in getting that book out there, and actually you might find that you don't have that much money coming in at all, considering all the work you put in. I have read quite a few articles from people who have done both to sort of get an idea of the ins and outs of both worlds, because they're quite different, but there are things that do overlap, which I think a lot of people don't quite understand. So the next biggest thing that people don't realise is that yes, there are a team of people helping to get traditionally published books on the bookshelves in terms of marketing and editing and developmental editing and everything else. But let's go back to that marketing bit. Yes, they have expertise and they do have money, but the authors are expected to do just as much marketing for the publisher. They can't just really sit back and let it go. They are expected to do a lot of the publishing themselves, and it's in their best interest too, because you need your book to sell to carry on publishing with them. So you know, it's like, yes, indie publishers are doing everything and they don't get that expertise, but it's not as if traditional authors, it's not as if they don't do any of that. They still have to do that. They still have to get their name out there. So there's that to consider as well. It's not as if I'm passing off everything onto someone else's plate. It's, you know, you still have a lot of that to do yourself. Let's just talk about getting your book onto bookshelves, because that seems to be another big thing that indie authors are asked a lot, or at least it is in the communities that I'm a part of. And do you know what? Indie publishers can get their books on bookshelves too. Now again, it's quite difficult, and you have to go through things like expanded distribution, through things like Ingram Spark or Amazon even. You have to have your own ISBN, so that's like the sort of book codes that go on the back of books. Now I at the moment don't have my own ISBNs. I use Amazon's free ones for my paperbacks, just because I just can't afford the ISBNs right now. We are talking hundreds of pounds to get a decent amount, because for each new edition you need a new ISBN. So you don't need to have an ISBN for your ebook, but you could have an ISBN for your ebook, and then you need another one for your paperback, and then you need another one for your hardback if you had a hardback, then another one for an audiobook if you did an audiobook. If you then had a different edition of that book, you need another ISBN. You could easily go through 4 or 5 ISBNs for one book. And to get one ISBN, you're talking like, in the UK, I can't remember if it's 60 something or 80 something pounds for one. Now obviously if you buy them in bulk, they do get considerably cheaper per one, but you are talking hundreds of pounds to get like say 10 or 100 or even or to get 1,000 ISBNs, you're talking like mega bucks. And I just can't afford that. That's not something that's on my list just yet. So I can't deny that seeing my book in a brick and mortar bookshop would be amazeballs, but the steps I need to take to sort of get there I'm not ready yet to make. Plus I think you need to be fairly, when I say successful, I mean in terms of bookshops, they need to see those sales and those reviews before they go in, and I don't have those yet. It is hard to get reviews. It's something I'm working on. That's my next step. So yes, it would be amazing to see my books in a bookshop, but that's, for me, that's not like the height of my wish list. Wish list. Which probably leads me quite nicely onto one of the biggest things we have to consider here is success, and what your version of success is. Everybody's version of that is very different, and we can't keep holding people accountable to our own successes and our own version of that, because everybody's is very different. We all have our own needs and wants. It stands to reason that we would all have our own version of success. For some people that's money, for some people that's being in a bookshop and feeling that sort of validity. So for me, obviously money plays a part in it, money plays a part in everything, but that's not my version of success. So I don't really mind other people not seeing me as a proper author, but for me, part of my success, and it's very personal to me, so I'm not going to go into it just now, but part of my success is getting books out that I am proud of, and that other people enjoy. And I am proud of the books I've got out there so far. I took down the Aphora duology because it's something I want to work on, and I learnt so much going through the Bloodline Alliance series learning process that I realised I wasn't as proud as my debut duology, so I've taken that down. I'm going to work on that and then get it back up there. Now obviously, as each book goes, you're going to improve, so I'm not going to take down every book and redo them, but I just mean I probably was a little bit premature in publishing those, and I want to be just as proud of the Aphora duology as I am the Bloodline Alliance series. Now again, when I'm on book 4 or 5, which I'm on book 4 now, of course I'm looking back at book 1 and thinking, oh, I wouldn't have done that, oh, I would have done this differently. And I'm glad that I do have those feelings, because it shows that I am improving and taking things on, and I've been more brave, or not more brave, that's really bad grammar. I've been braver, and I have gotten beta readers, and which are complete strangers who read your book and give you feedback. And that's been a really valuable process, like not just for the actual story, but also for me as a person, like getting that's my validity. I struggle to get my books out there, I struggle with the marketing side of things, I struggle getting reviews, but the people who read it and the beta readers and everything else, they are loving it and they enjoy it, and I just feel like that gives me the confidence to move on. So at the moment, my version of dreams, my version of success isn't having my books in a bookshop. It's what I've just said. It's getting my books out there, feeling very proud. So for instance, I am going to have 3 books published by the time I would have had 5 books published by the time I'm 30, but I took 2 of them down. But for the Bloodline Alliance series, the first 3 books will be out by the time I'm 30, which means that within a year I've got 3 books out, and I am so proud of that, considering I had a baby in that time as well, and it was quite a stressful time. So that's something that I am proud of, and nobody can take that pride away. You could tell me that I'm not a proper author, fine, what's your definition? My definition is writing a book and selling it. And people enjoying it. And that's so actually my next steps are to learn marketing better, because I suck majorly at that. I just find it difficult saying, hey, I've read a book, go read it. But I probably should be a little bit more like that. So hey, I've written 3 books, go read them. I will leave the links below actually for that. So yeah, that's what we've got to consider. So that validity is important, but everybody's version of validity and version of success is very different, and you can't hold somebody accountable for your own version. That's the way it stands between traditional and indie publishing, and there is no right or wrong answer here. let's just circle back to sort of those main points with traditional publishing. You do lose, I won't necessarily say rights, although I have heard authors say that they lose rights to their books for a certain amount of time and they can't do anything with those books. But you do lose autonomy over it. So you don't get to choose your cover. You don't get to keep the story exactly the way you want. Your publisher, your agents will edit that and get you to change things that you may not necessarily have wanted to change. And I hear that a lot in the sort of publishing world. I do hear that a lot as one of the biggest downsides. So, you know, the pluses of traditional publishing for me, so, and let's face it, if you're traditionally published, you probably do get that sense of validity, and you can get your book into more bookstores. You do get the expertise of all these people to help with marketing and to help get your book to where it needs to be. And let's face it, you might lose your choice of book cover and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, they are experts. They've done that quite a few times, so they may create a better book cover than you could ever think of. So, you know, there are those pluses, but for me, I do like having that complete control over my book and over my work. And indie publishing is very fast compared to traditional publishing. And I just want to keep on writing my stories. As I said, part of my success is just writing stories that I'm proud of and hoping people like them. That's my part of my version of success. So for me, indie publishing is great. I get complete control over that, and I get them out there when I want to get them out there. And if there's something about a book that a beta reader was like, oh, I'm not so sure about that, it's my choice if I keep it in or not. So, you know, there are definitely cons, there are definitely downsides to indie publishing. So learning everything yourself, doing everything yourself, doing the business side, the marketing side, the editorial side, and the writing side. That is a lot, and you have to learn it all yourself. But for me, that outweighs the cons of traditional publishing. Now, I will end by saying never say never. I could get to the point in the future where I'm quite happy where I am, and my next steps in my goals is to become traditionally published, and I might work on that. I'm definitely not saying never, but for me right now, where I am in my life and my career, as it were, that's where I want to be. So if you are a writer and what I have said has sort of resonated with you, then maybe consider indie publishing. If you're a reader, hopefully it's just giving you a bit of an insight into sort of how I view things and how other indie publishers might view things. We don't see ourselves as less. We just have different goals, different priorities, and different versions of success that have led us into indie publishing. Anyway, that is enough for me for now. I just wanted to sort of explain that sort of big thing when you're an indie publisher, a self-publisher, what people think of you, what people assume of you, and they sort of ask you why. And that is the why right now. It might change in the future, but right now, that's where I stand. And as I said before in last week's video, I am indie and proud. I am incredibly proud of that. I am incredibly proud of what I have done. And if I sometimes need to stop and think, if I'm having a bad day or I think, oh, I've not done this, or look at that person over there, what I have to do is think, what have you achieved, Rianne? You've achieved this, you've achieved that, and think about what you have done. Glass half full, guys. And I have published 3 books I am so incredibly proud of, 3 books within a year, and that is something that no one can take away from me. So, I will see you in my next video. Bye!